Vicky, bienvenue, welcome one and all to another live stream. I'm very pleased to have in this studio my good friend and business associate, Vicky Poole of Tender Response, who provides a tender response for a tender response. And today we're talking facts. No, not those. FAQs, frequently asked questions. So we're going to have 14 minutes of covering frequently asked questions. Vicky, take it away.
One of the things I always get asked about tenders is how often do they come out? So I know. So if there's a 3-year-long tender, they come out every 3 years.
Right.
So you sometimes get pre-engagement work, which is the stuff that councils do or the procurers do beforehand. So they might come out 2 years into a 3-year agreement.
Right.
But if the council doesn't get the result that they want, they always have the option to extend. Which leads into the next question I get, which is if they have the option to extend on a +1, why wouldn't the council just do that? Well, councils can
they
go for the +1 and the +1?
Yeah, but I would have thought that means that doesn't that not give other potential companies a fair crack of the whip if they're just +1.
So you have to bear in mind that for every procurement that the council or the procurer runs, they then have to factor in an association of that cost.
Right.
So say for argument's sake, it's going to cost you 100 grand to run a procurement, which is all of the activities that have to be done through Crown Commercial Services, the bid team, the evaluation team. And even if, like, for example, say it's just a simple technology refresh or introducing a new software, you've got the time from IT to run the project, you've got the dual overrunning, you've got all these other things. So £100,000 is probably about a fair estimate. If the councils can't afford that 100 grand to do the procurement at that time, then of course they're going to go for the +1. It's written into contracts that you can extend on a +1 or a +2 or a +1. There's lots of different variations of this. What it does mean, though, for the suppliers who aren't currently delivering that service is that you have to be pretty persuasive to entice them out to procurement, which is when a lot of people generally tend to respond to early engagement events. And these are things, and I always encourage my clients to respond to these, even if it costs them 100 quid or so. You get asked, how would you like to see this procurement run? Or are there any particular things that would, encourage you to respond to this procurement? The councils are asking for advice. And and these come in all shapes and sizes. So there was one earlier this year for the army. They want to do a custom build machine, like it's a vehicle, but the back of the machine's all been completely fitted out so that it's got lots of virtual reality in there. I know. Okay. And it's how much would you price for this project? And of course, they had literally said, we would like a car that has this capability. What car do you want? How many VR units? So the client that I was working with responded to it and was able to say, well, it's horses for courses. You can have this done for as cheap as 10 grand. But if you really want to showcase everything that you do, you're probably looking at 100 grand budget. So it then flexes in between, just in the same way, whether it's cleaning, cleaning, construction, different types of roofing cladding, there are always expression of interest or early engagement exercises out there. It's a great opportunity for suppliers to get in and respond, not only because you get to shape the deal, the contract as it comes out, but you also get to understand from the client side whether or not they're more likely to go and just simply extend, because when you're speaking to somebody face to face, you get a lot more information from them than just on an email.
Yeah, well, of course, you've got the non-verbals and also got the fact that when you're within the same space, you can't hide behind a screen or something.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So I a lot of people ask you about that sort of stuff. What are some of the other things that people often query about that you think they should know about in advance or even looking at tenders?
One of the ones I got asked over the weekend was, why are the procurement portals free? The procurement portals are free to access because they're showcasing all of the tenders that are available. If anybody was to win a procurement, particularly off of a framework, there's usually in there a contribution from the supplier, which then goes to fund that procurement portal. And that can be anything from 0.1% to 3%, depending on the portal. And that will be sent on a KPI. So the second that the council or the procurer registers that your company has won this contract, you'll be asked to pay a sum of money. And it's usually very nominal because they go for scale. If a procurement portal is winning or announcing winners of, say, 30,000 contracts a month, which was about average last year,
Right.
they're not going to be asking you for swathes of money. It's very nominal.
All right, so here's one. Could the same tender appear on multiple different portals?
Yes.
And therefore, are some portals that you go through more likely to win a specific tender than others?
No, because it's all done on the evaluation.
Right.
So if you were to look at 2 pints of milk or a pack of 6 eggs, you can buy a pack of 6 eggs from your local greengrocer, the corner shop, wherever it is that you do your shopping. In your particular area, all of those eggs are going to come from the same farm.
Right.
So regardless of where you purchase it, it goes back to the same farm in exactly the same way. So I'll give you a brilliant example. Most, in fact, 99.9% of procurers advertise their tenders on Contracts Finder, which is a government website.
Right.
So because that's just a government website and it's quite finicky, good northern word there, you've got to really know how to use it to find the contracts.
Hang on, is that finicky with an F?
Yes.
Because, you know, the soft southern version is pernickety with a P.
Oh, Jesus. God, you can tell that that's southerners because they go down the alphabet.
We love a good P. Go on.
Quite. So a lot of organizations, I've got 2 clients at the minute who subscribe to Sell to Wales. So Sell to Wales it's another general procurement portal. But when you go in there, not all of the contracts in there are for Welsh authorities or Welsh charities.
Really?
Yeah. So they have subscriptions to Sell to Wales because it's cheaper. I was like, okay. But then they're sending me through contracts that are in central UK.
For some odd reason, that's confused my noodle. It seems counterintuitive.
Yes. So now the best thing about this, Gareth, is you've got Contracts Finder that has the same post that directs you to a portal called My Tenders. You've got the Sell to Wales, which is exactly the same as Contracts Finder, that also says go to My Tenders to view this document. Right. So regardless of what platform you're on, there's only one place where you can download the tender documents and one place where you need to reply.
So all they are,
that, all intents and purposes, is the only thing that matters.
So they're a sugar-coated front end to help people.
I couldn't possibly use that language, Gareth, but essentially, yes.
Okay, fair enough. But there seem to be so many portals. There
are. You'll also find some that are regional as well, like YPO. YPO is the Yorkshire Procurement Organisation, which covers most of like Humberside, Yorkshire, and even some bits in Northumberland and County Durham sort of way as well. But again, there's no obligation for you to use those platforms either.
But hang on a moment. If I was a southern company, I could possibly put my tender in there as well?
Potentially, yeah.
If it was a lot cheaper to do so. I'm not saying it is. But, you know, the same, following your Welsh assignation earlier.
Potentially, yeah. So YPO is slightly different in that they run their own frameworks in a very similar way to Crown Commercial Services do. Right. And they advertise to attract business from local suppliers. So if you're in the YPO, it's probably, if you're a supplier, you're probably supplying to that area. But you could be an IT company and it doesn't matter where you are. You can still look after IT remotely. You can just hop onto someone's machine.
Well, exactly. And so therefore, theoretically, you you could be putting your tender. You could be responding to tenders in any logical location.
You could.
Right. So there are a lot less restrictions than I first thought. All right. So okay. So all these portals. So how do I know which portal to go after? Other than by consulting someone like you.
Well, firstly, you would always come to someone like me who can give you the right steer.
Obviously.
There are some general catch-alls that are better suited to certain industries than others. So Proactis or Due North is a general kind of catch-all. Most people use those, or most entities use those portals. Another good one is Delta. So Delta, there's a lot of stuff going on in education in Delta at the moment, and you find a lot of stuff there in construction. You find that in some district councils, they tend to go towards Intend, which is their own portal, or they're part of like My Tenders. Anything inside of London, you go to like My Intend London or Southeast Shared.
Okay.
If it's Northwest, it's Chest. If it's Northeast, it's Yorkshire Procurement Organisation. If it's Wales, it's Sell to Wales, but not always. You kind of don't necessarily know. You need to know where the previous ones have been posted.
So it's experience, really, isn't it?
Yes, probably a good way of saying that.
Bugger. All right. So
it's all right, though. Most of us will give that kind of information away for free. Because if you're finding tenders...
if you don't know to ask the question, if you make, like I was making, the casual assumption that all portals are the same, but they're not. And not only that, but the other applies as well, that you could be in ones that you wouldn't logically think you'd be in, purely because it's cheaper to put your tender in that portal than it might be elsewhere. Which is the most expensive portal for people to put their stuff into? It
depends on your contract.
Oh, right.
So there are some portals that are cheaper to use than others, but you don't, as a supplier, you don't necessarily have a choice in that. It's all about where the council ends up procuring from.
Because my thoughts are this: if you knew which portals had the charged the most, that would give an indicator that whoever was putting the tender in them would have the most money to spend.
So typically, compliant frameworks are a little bit more expensive than general open source tendering.
Right.
You're not talking anything significant, though.
Wow.
I'm talking like fraction of a percent rather than like the 10%. So they're not always massive. The thing that is slightly different, though, between portals is that Delta has some mandatory questions that you need to respond to on all submissions, whereas on Proactis, they generally ask you to attach a supplier, an SQQ, which people call it different things: supplier qualification questionnaire or standard qualification questionnaire, SQQ. It's all of your information present in one place.
All right.
It looks like you had a question there, Gareth.
No, I just said Beth Ann said hi to us, which was very sweet of her.
Hey, Beth Ann.
She works within the care sector and is responsible for helping people get through that. I'm interested. Do local authority tendering and NHS tendering, are they in different places?
It depends on the thing that you're purchasing.
Right.
If it's general stationery, it's probably going to be in the same place. If it's medications, PPE, stuff for surgeries, they're usually hidden behind compliant frameworks, because you have to make sure that all the vendors are, they've been vetted, they've been tested, so that all of the goods are coming from a known source. In the same way as what you would do with...
I was going to be a little bit controversial and say, if those tenders were the case, what happened to all those PPE tenders during the pandemic, who obviously weren't vetted, because otherwise they would have worked out that the PPE they provide wasn't fit for purpose?
I can't comment too much about that. I haven't read through all the tender documents, Gareth. Thank you very much for that curveball. In all cases, suppliers are asked to achieve a minimum benchmark. It's for the procurer to decide what that minimum benchmark is.
Right. So it might have been down to the procurer not to have stated that the benchmark was high enough.
If I tell you, Gareth, that 30 miles per gallon is a good MPG on your vehicle, and I tell you that because, and you believe me because I'm a car nut, then when you find a car that does 31 miles per gallon, you think that's a good car.
Right.
Whereas I could be talking about a car that goes from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Exactly.
And the 30 MPG is the urban-rural combo. Whereas if anyone who does know me, they'll know that I'm a bit beige and I drive a Volkswagen Passat. Yes, Gareth has seen my car and mocked me many times. Whereas my husband's got 2 sports cars. He's terrible. Anyways, moving swiftly on, my MPG is closer to 60 mile per gallon. And of course...
And so it should be.
Yes, for that beige vehicle. Anyways, getting back to the point, when I tell somebody and I express my opinion and say, well, this is what a good benchmark is, if people believe me because I'm a specialist in my area and they don't sanity check it, then of course they're going to believe that what I tell them is true. If they go, oh, actually, I'm just going to double check and sanity check that information, and then they find information from another source that questions it, it then throws up a question. Now, this is the mathematician side of me, because for those of you who really know me, you'll know that I'm an applied mathematician by training. If you've got two different results that don't align, you have to do your own research in order to ascertain which one's true.
You can't trust anything.
Exactly. So then that's probably where independent research would have come in and saved the country billions in PPE that then couldn't be used. But there again, that's just my humble opinion. And if I'm not here next week, it's because I'm inside somewhere else.
All right. So just briefly go. Beth Ann's jumped in. She's helping people with mental health and self-development. Tenders are very important. And this is very
100%. So Bethan, if you haven't seen Lovely, there is a new tender in London helping people with it's self-care. I think it's 1.8 million over 3 years. You might want to check that one out. If you haven't got the link.
Well, she is actually, interestingly enough, she is a Welsh lady, and she may well be interested in looking at more of the Welsh tenders, but always good to know. Thank you once again, Vicky Poole. Vicky is a font of knowledge. I'm very briefly going to put up a banner of hers very quickly.
Ooh, a banner?
Yeah, a banner. Well, we always
Which one are you putting up, Gareth?
I thought the one with all your resources on it, that might be most useful. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, let's go for that one. So if anyone's looking at this and thinking, oh, crumbs, I need to know some more about tenders and where do I get all this lovely information from? tenderresponse.co.uk/resources will take you to that wonderful spot in there. There are some really useful information. So if you want to write your own tender, it says 10 tips to tendering. I kind of give you more than that because I'm always a bit generous. You get a copy of your standard qualification questionnaire. That's available to download as well. And then references, templates. What makes a good reference and the kind of information that you need, that's in there as well.
And look here is the WhatsApp number. If you want to ask a question, just to get the ball rolling, with no obligation, of course. The line is womaned, and will be responded to fairly rapidly. Please make sure that you think it through and just don't ask, how do I do a tender? You need to actually ask something about the specific area that you're in, give her a clue, and then she can give you the best response. But just to say thank you so much, Vicky, for once again gracing our screens with your presence. She's here with me every week. We tend to be on Wednesday, so watch out for that. And of course, I wish everybody a successful week and great mental health. Bye-bye now.